A Bon Appetit video about the delicious Vietnamese soup pho has the outlet in hot, beefy water. They posted a video of Chef Tyler Akin from Philadelphia restaurant Stock explaining the philosophy of pho and how to properly eat it. We do not have the video to show you because it was taken down due to overwhelmingly negative response. And there are a few different problems people had with the video. Some ranged from colonialistic attitudes, the idea of calling pho the new ramen, which intimates that there's only room for one Asian noodle soup to be supreme, and saying there's a right way to eat pho, generally attempting to handle the video in a post-racial way without sensitivity. It ranges all over the place. They apologized in a statement after taking down the video on Facebook. We believe in celebrating food from all cultures. We just want to eat and talk about food all the time. Moreover, we care deeply about supporting local and international food communities. At the same time, we never want to be a space that allows for harassing comments and threats towards chefs and restaurant owners, ever. That's not what we're about, which is why we've taken down the video.
Yeah, so I have very, very strong opinions about this and prepare to get offended. But before I get to mine, so coincidentally, Kim happens to be half Vietnamese, half white. Perfect person to comment about
like they chose it because I was here.
No, total coincidence. By the way, this graphic, friend or foe, I find very offensive. Okay, so...
By the way, it's pronounced pho?
Pho. Yeah.
Didn't know that.
You're so white. Okay, offended or not offended?
There's different reasons on here. I'm not offended by the idea that there's a way to eat pho. I mean, there's lots of different ways. If, according to my mother, like, it doesn't matter. You just eat it. It doesn't, just, if you like it this way, do it. Like, in the video, they were like, oh, don't put hoisin sauce and sriracha in the broth. And, like, traditionally, that's not what people do. But if you do it, fine. I don't care. It's your soup. It did... Like, I understand the people, and we do have some quotes for them. I understand why people would be mad, because it is a little bit of Orientalism, ironically, Orientalism regarding Asian food, which is like, oh, well, this is the way we're showing it. And it does kind of speak from not the most, it wasn't handled that well. However, I'm not overwhelmingly offended. I just don't think it was the good thing to do.
I don't care, it's your soup should trend somewhere.
I thought the exact same thing. I don't care, it's your soup.
I don't care, it's your soup.
It sounds like it
Great
should mean
line.
something else. Right.
It does sound like,
yeah.
I just thought really quick, because we do on Two Dope Boys in a podcast, we do brand F-up of the week, where we review, you know, a brand F-up. It's self-explanatory. But the thing that just strikes me about this is, even though I agree that the response is over the top and, you know, whatever, there's so many more just subtleties that you need to be aware of if you're even going to do a video like this in today's world. And that might be progress, it might not be, but it's reality. You can't just spin a video out like this anymore without thinking through like dozens of scenarios that are not normally going to occur to you.
I think that's a negative. I mean, I hear you.
Also, which do you think is the supreme Asian soup, by the way?
No, there doesn't need to be one.
Just kidding.
It's like,
Sorry.
sometimes black comics complain about this, where it's like they get to be the only black comic, but there's
Chris
there's
Rock
like
still.
5 other white comics who, oh, that's the fat one, that's the, you know, that's the bald one, that's the short
Louis
one,
C.K.,
that's the
Louis
tall
C.K.
one, you know,
That's
and
the
it's
Jewish
like, why
one.
do you get to be,
They're all Jewish.
why do you get to describe yourself with these adjectives, and I'm black or I'm Asian, you know?
A lot of people died then.
Okay, so here's my strong and somewhat offensive thoughts on this.
I know what they are.
Okay, so look, some people think this is identity politics, etc. I hate that stuff. So I don't. So some right wingers are going to line up against the Asian guys because they're Asian. They're like, oh, whoa, what's the big deal, right? And I hate to be in their camp. But so I want to frame it in a different way. And so partly because I hate all the labels now, like politically correct. It's totally misunderstood, misapplied. Social justice warrior. It's just so stupid, right? It's like, first of all, social justice is a good thing. I know you're using it in, I guess, in an ironic way. And then Bill O'Reilly says secular humanist, like that's a bad thing. Like, oh, you're for the humans. What? So I hate all those labels, and I don't want to use any of them, right? But so I had to come up with my own, because I think that people are being too thin-skinned about this. And so But then thin-skinned is not political. It's certainly not racial. So there are thin-skinned people on the left and on the right. So these guys appear to be, I guess, on the left, right? But then there's the thin-skinned people like Bill O'Reilly. Like if you say Happy Holidays to him, he's like, whoa, what is this, right?
He gets triggered.
Yeah, he gets triggered.
Gets triggered.
By Happy Holidays. Somebody's trying to be a nice person to you, say Happy Holidays. Hey, well, why don't you say Merry Christmas? Well, I'm not, I'm Jewish or whatever. Hey, Yuda, say Merry Christmas. Like, Jesus Christ,
Or
man.
I'd be like, I said it to upset you like that.
Right.
That's why I said it.
Right, so there's thin-skinned people on both sides, no question about it. I mean, the right claims that they're not thin-skinned and they hate the politically correct. Bullshit. Are you kidding me? They get triggered so easily. Oh, this is a war against the Christians. Now they won't even let us hate gay people anymore. I'm so triggered, right? But I think this does fall into the thin-skinned thing. Like, okay, it's a white guy commenting about pho. So what? Okay.
Well, I think the problem was they didn't think he gave enough respect to it. I mean, there are people chefs who cook food that is not from their culture, and they handle it very respectfully. A lot of the issue was this guy didn't handle it respectfully.
So Kim, that's the thing. You're right. That's why I'm in the thick-skinned category, and so I have to remember that not everybody thinks like I do. So I'm not by definition right. There's two different kinds of people. But for example, I'll use my own ethnicity. So if there was a white guy talking about kebabs, I could not give a fuck. Like, the number of fucks I could give is infinitesimally low.
But Cenk, which is the supreme Middle Eastern kebab?
Yeah,
there can only be one.
There can only be one.
Yeah, well now wait a minute, now if you're talking about kebabs, are you minimizing gyros here? And I would be deeply offended if you are, because there are gyros and kebabs.
I'm trying to otherize gyros more than minimalize.
Yeah, so let white people talk about kebabs, and there's no Turkish rugs, there's only Turkish people. No, there's also Turkish rugs.
And
so what?
This strikes me as an attempt to be culturally sensitive, and I guess a failure at it. But the attempt was to be like
Post-racial,
right? To be here's a kind of food you might not know much about, and here's a way to enjoy it. Like I don't know, man. You don't have. I've said this many times. It's quoting my brother on it. You don't have a right not to be offended in this country. You really don't. You have no right. You get to be offended, and then you can say something back lousy if you want, and you can try to offend me back. But there's a danger in being paranoid about offending people and worrying about a video when the intent is pure, and there's no suggestion the intent here is not pure. If people who know a lot about Vietnamese cooking and for whom that is an important part want to get in, as many people did, many commentators clearly their responses says here, we're lighthearted. If you want to go, hey man, there are a lot of ways to eat pho, and maybe you should mention some of the others. My hunch is that Bon Appetit would be like, great.
Wouldn't it be funny if this video actually came out though, and it was the most? He's like, "All right, here's what the Orientals do."
Like
it was like the most, just like over the top.
And we're like,
like he's just like, this is why they stay so skinny. Let me.
And he's like Mickey.
Not just good.
He's got like makeup like Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. He's doing an accent.
Racist, antiquated.
I can't watch that movie.
That would be funny. Okay. As we're saying, it's not a big deal. We're like, ooh, when we see the video, we're like, oh, we didn't mean that, right? Okay, so, and by the way, so it's First Amendment all around. You have a right to say that you're angry about that video, and Ben's got a right to say he's not angry about the video, and then you've got a right to say you hate Ben, and he's got a right to say he hates you, and round we go. And by the way, we try to see from different perspectives, so I really mean it when I say, just because we happen to be more thick-skinned, and partly because, I've gotten, 1 million, 10 million angry comments about me online. So if I didn't have thick skin, I wouldn't be here, right? So, but that's me, and everybody's not me. So I'm not trying to say that these guys are 100% wrong. They got a different perspective. But I am saying I totally disagree. So like one guy says, do they say that about spaghetti?
Well, because they're like, you have all kinds of spaghetti. That is regarding the number one best one.
Yeah, see? Now we're on it.
Yeah, of course they say that about spaghetti. There's 1,000 conversations about which is the best spaghetti, and it's non-Italians who are talking about. Nobody's like, oh, that guy was not Italian, and he's talking about spaghetti. It's cultural appropriation.
You know, they were
but it
invaded
is, but
by
that's
the Moors, man. That's disgusting.
Cool. A lot of people died.
Not cool.
a lot of people die. Okay, so guys, yes, America culturally appropriates things.
Yeah, it's a melting pot.
That's why it's awesome. So, like the Italians, yeah, the knuckleheads made the pizza without cheese. We had to fix it. Okay, we put a lot of mozzarella cheese on it, and then pepperonis, and we're geniuses. So you bring in your culture, and then we take it and we smush it all together. And yes, sometimes the original food's a little better, but then but we came out with a pretty good thing. I mean, don't you like? So I'm in the camp of just for God's sakes, calm down and let the white guy talk about pho and have his opinion on how to eat it. But I get it if you're like, hey, wait, I should be doing
North
that.
Korea has nukes. The planet's burning. We're probably not going to survive. Just relax.
Right.
Enjoy
For
a
crying out
Bon
loud,
Appétit
Hillary
video.
might be president. It's worse than all those things.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying.
And it just seems to me, Kim, that here you have this, here's an attempt, and there's a way to respond to it. Like, hey, man, like that would have not had them take the video down. Like, if they took the video down, like, the comments were clearly really angry as opposed to, hey, man, there's a lot of ways to make pho, and here's 7
Well,
more.
there's a traditional way and there's like maybe a fusion way.
Right.
I mean, it's funny, like I was watching this BuzzFeed video and it had Mexican parents and Mexican kids trying Taco Bell. And the Mexican kids were like, this is a travesty, this is an insult to my heritage, this is disgusting, this in no way should be called a taco. And then the parents go like, yeah, it's fine. It's not great, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you guys prefer, ramen or pho?
No.
No, I'm actually curious.
I like pho a lot better.
I like ramen, and I love Taco Bell.
And
You know why?
why-
Because it's delicious.
Yeah. So why is ramen or pho like
And you're
again? Why is that?
inappropriate.
Like I know that they're saying it's offensive, but being a thick, I think is somewhat fitting for me.
I don't like that.
Okay.
A thick?
Instead of a thin, I'm a thick.
Sheesh.
I don't get it. Like if someone asked me what's better, a kebab or a gyro, I'd answer that. I can't fathom being offended by that. But some are. And on the Taco Bell issue, look, I know what an authentic taco is like, but the problem is it uses corn tortilla, which I don't like. Okay, and it has real meat. I prefer ground beef.
Totally.
I like the crappy stuff.
Ground beef's
So give me
better.
a hard shell with ground beef. You know why?
Yes.
Because I'm an American.
Right, exactly.
And that means that I love Mexican food. I like some of the authentic stuff. I like some of the fake stuff. I like authentic Chinese food. I like the fake Chinese food. I'm an American.
We won the world.
Come join us. Young Turks, we couldn't do it without you.
Please believe me.